What is up, guys? My name is Mitch. This is Innovation. We're going to be doing some e-bike reviews today, and today we are checking out the Malibu GT, which you can see behind me. If you can't see me, it's because I'm wearing camouflage. You're not supposed to be able to see me, so let's jump into the bike review. As I mentioned in the intro, this is the Malibu GT from ELUX. This is the step-through version. They also have a step-over version and a Malibu Mini, which has 24-inch wheels instead of the 26s, which come on the Malibu and the Malibu GT. So if you're somebody who likes all the upgrades, and really the main one when we're talking about the Malibu GT Mini is the seat post suspension here. It adds about 4 inches or so to your minimal seat height. So if you like this vibe and you really want that suspension seat post, the Mini is going to be a good option for you if you're not tall enough to fit on these bikes with the seat post suspension. So that's a little caveat before we jump into our review here. Now, when we're talking about e-bikes, we're going to be talking about a couple of main things. So you guys are doing your research, you're looking at bikes to buy. There's a few things you want to know probably right off the bat, and that would be like the motor and the battery. So we'll touch on those first, save you guys some time, see if this is going to fit the bill for you. So in the rear, we have got a 750 watt DAPU motor. Now, this motor peaks at about 1,345 watts. And really, from the looks of the bikes to how they feel, it's pretty surprising how much torque and power you actually get with this motor. They're pretty quiet. The DAPU motors, we haven't had a lot of experience with those. Really, it's just been the ELUX bikes, but comparing those to some of the Bafangs, they seem to be a little bit quieter, definitely a little bit torqueier, at least these motors that we got here on the Malibus and the Tahoe GTs. So, pretty impressed with them so far as motor quality goes. Now, if you're somebody who are, somebody who is, right, proper English, if you're somebody who is looking at this bike and going, well, I don't want all the power, I don't want all the torque, ELUX bikes are pretty cool because you can actually jump up here into the settings. So right over here, you can see our mode here. We are in power mode. You just press and hold this set button on this side. That'll put us in set 0, and that is how we change this. So we can go down, put in normal, we can put in eco, hold down set again, boom. And now we've basically just transformed this bike that has all this power and all this torque into something that is very easy off the line. It's a very, very gradual torque curve here, and it really does change the entire feel of the bike, both for our pedal assist and for our throttle. So again, if you're somebody who's like, oh, I love the bike, but you said it has all this power and stuff like this, it's very, very easy to go in there and adjust that so it doesn't have that. You still get the top speeds, but you get there a lot slower than you would if you had it in power mode. So kind of a cool thing here is that if you like the style and you like some of the other comfort upgrades, you really get to tune the bike for how you want to ride it, and maybe for the situation. Maybe sometimes, if you're out with somebody who's on a traditional bike and you guys are just cruising, but you still need, some of the assistance, you can put in eco mode, you guys can hang out together, and it's not one of those things where you're going and then you have to stop, you're going, you have to stop. You can really detune the bike and kind of keep up with them. So that is pretty interesting. Now, the other main thing people look at when they're looking at electric bikes is going to be the battery. So on the GT version, we've got our battery right over here. Now this is a 20 amp hour Panasonic cells. Really can't complain about that. Panasonic, LG, and Samsung, kind of the top 3 cell manufacturers that we like to see in batteries. So the fact that they use Panasonic or Samsung, they go back and forth between the two, is really nice to see. Again, we're talking about the company with a 5-year warranty. They really cover this battery. They know they've got really good components in there. So that is something that is cool to see. 20 amp hours here. It's going to give you 60, 65, 70 miles, kind of on the high end. Most people who ride this probably going to get anywhere between 55 to 65 would be my guess. And that's based on, just kind of me riding around, how I like to ride it. So if you're looking at range, 55, 65, probably pretty reasonable. For most people, that's 2 or 3 trips. So 2 or 3 trips, you charge it up, and you are good to go. So nice battery here. You can lock and remove this. So we got the keys over here. Really, the only thing you need the keys for, you don't need the keys for starting the bike or anything. It's really just for getting the battery out. And that's nice because if you are transporting it, you can take that battery out, which weighs another 10, 12 pounds. So you get rid of 10, 12 pounds, makes the transport easier. Or if you're somebody who's like, hey, I like, keeping the bike in the garage, but I want to charge it in the great room, the den, whatever, you can just pop that battery off and charge it wherever you want to. So kind of cool options as far as these batteries go. And also on the side here, we've got a USB plug. So if you're running out of juice on your phone, or one of your other electronic devices that uses USB, you can plug in a USB here and charge that. So if you have a hurricane roll through and you don't have power, boom, you got a little extra 20 amp hour battery pack right here. So just things to consider when you're looking at batteries. They use good cells, USB compatible. You can lock it and remove it, and you don't need the keys to start it, which is it's something that we used to do a lot with e-bikes, and now everybody's kind of steering away from that. So definitely a little bit more of an upgraded package here. The next thing we look at after sort of like the big components is going to be the safety aspects. So first and foremost, just at the side, you can see we do have these sidewall reflective stripes that go around here. Now we do have integrated taillight, integrated headlight, and if you're riding at night, your light's going this way, your tail light's going this way, and you don't really have anything coming from the side. But if a car or another vehicle is approaching you, these reflective stripes are going to show off pretty big. There's just these giant circles, and they go, oh, what is that? It's probably a bike. So a nice little safety thing if you're riding at night. And then also, as far as colors go, this white is probably one of the safer ones that you could be riding at night, because that will also reflect and shine pretty good if you do get caught in some headlights or something like that. So right off the bat, we got a couple nice safety things here. Again, integrated taillight, integrated headlight, and the brakes. So the brakes we have here are Tektro Dorados. Now these are 4-piston brakes. That's 4P. That's what that is right there on the side. So most brakes are dual piston. They've got 2 pistons down here in the calipers, which I will get to over here. But the Tektro Dorados have 4 pistons, so you have twice the pistons there. So it's easier to brake. They're more powerful brakes. And then up here in the front, we've got a 203 millimeter rotor, and we've got a 180 millimeter rotor in the rear. Now these brakes, these Tektro Dorado brakes, you're not going to see them on a lot of products out there. They are really, really nice brakes, and definitely a very safe upgrade, even over the Tektro Arigas, which are on the non-GT models. But even those ones are better than the other bikes at that price point. So as far as brakes go, I think ELUX has pretty much some of the best brakes, the best braking system setups of any bikes that we've tested in quite some time, maybe of all time. So as far as brakes go, really can't say enough positive things about the brakes they chose on here. They work really well. They stop the bike on a dime. If that's a concern, you're like, well, I feel like I just need a little extra power when I'm stopping, or I like to have that control, and that's a big concern for me, you really can't get better than some of the brakes that are on these ELUX bikes. And that, again, pretty much goes for all of them. I think the worst brakes they have are the Tektro Arigas, and those are really solid brakes and better than the regular Tektro brakes that come on really most of the popular e-bikes that you guys, have seen reviews on or see online. So if braking's a big concern, ELUX is pretty much doing the best of anybody here in the industry. So, and that's just not hype words. Those are they're just using better components. And so, a lot of thought and care went into selection there as far as the components go. So, nothing to complain about. Really, just positive things to say there. We mentioned the lights, so we go ahead and turn the lights on. We'll turn the bike on. So you just press and hold the power button over here. Now, if you notice it was on earlier, it does have a timeout. So that way, if you do forget to turn it off, it's not going to be draining your battery all day long. Press the power button again, and then the light icon will come on there, and then our light is on in the front. Now these lights, with all the other ELUX bikes, they're not super bright enough to be seen, bright enough to to see if you are in a spot that has like some ancillary. If we had some street posts or something, you're riding around the neighborhood at night, probably enough to do a little bit of cruising. But if it was me, I wouldn't want to be going top speed in that situation. And definitely not bright enough if you're just out in the blackness. So if you're on a trail that kind of goes around the neighborhood and there's no lights out there, you definitely would want something brighter. And if you are going to get something brighter, you do have the option to mount something up here on the handlebars, which is actually going to give you a better throw. It's a better throw angle, so you can illuminate more of the path in front of you. And it's a little bit safer because cars are kind of used to looking about this height for other headlights. So you're kind of in their field of view a little bit better having a light up there. So if you do look to upgrade, you can keep this one as kind of like a running light, and then if you have something that's a little bit more powerful, 1,000 lumens, something like that, that really is going to help illuminate your path if you are doing some night riding, especially at speed, or especially, again, like we talked about, in those dark spots. So That would be an option, upgrading something like that. Now in the rear, our rear light's going to be on, so we got our front light on, and then the light's on in the rear. Now similar with all the ELUX bikes and my 30 frames per second, it does look like it's flashing a little bit, but it's not flashing in real life. And then when we pull the brakes, it's going to light up. You can see it light up when I hold the brake lever down. We've also got up here in the brakes, kind of one last thing about the brakes. We do have these motor cutoff cables, and so that means that as soon as you start squeezing this just a little bit, before you even actually get into like the actual braking, so you're actually like clamping those calipers around our rotors there, it's going to start cutting off the power to the motor. So if you get into a situation, throttle gets stuck, you know, so you're just not liking what's going on, all you got to do is pull that back a little bit, and it's going to cut power to the motor, which is a big safety thing, especially on most e-bikes come with, you know, these motor cutoff cables. There's a few that don't, and it's kind of a use case thing. Either they're super small, super light, kind of fixie style e-bikes. I've seen a few of those that don't have the motor cutoff cables, or like the Rambless, for example, which is a mountain bike. Generally, you know, something that has mid-drives, easier to cut off. It cuts off a little bit quicker, and then it's just in a mountain bike scenario, you don't necessarily need that. So those are, you know, kind of a few of the situations where you wouldn't see that, but there are some that should have motor cutoff cables that don't, and so I'm glad that they, you know, included that here, which is also gives us our functionality of being able to pull this and have that lever go off. So safety-wise, really a lot of solid things. We've also got fenders in there. Maybe a safety thing. It's really more of an aesthetics thing, functionality thing, but we do have these color-matched fenders, which is nice. So that is, as far as the vibe goes, that's kind of nice to have as well. Plus, it's going to keep you safe from, you know, getting a mud stripe up your back or having some rocks flail up there. They should do a good job of protecting you from that. Right here in the rear, we have got this nice big rack, rear rack, if you will. Now, it says it's rated for 15 kilograms, but, you know, honestly, it seems like it's pretty well built. You probably get away with a little bit more, but, you know, just telling you, that's what it says here on here. So if you want to throw some pannier bags, saddlebag, rear basket, you could do that here with this, and that kind of opens up, you know, some more carrying options as well. Last thing before we jump into suspension and some of the comfort items, we do have bottle cage bosses here, and that means you can, you know, throw a water bottle here, you strap an extra tube, you could strap a bike lock, you know, all sorts of stuff. And then here behind the seat, which this is kind of an interesting thing because not a lot of companies do this. We've got a pretty big gap. This is probably like 3.5 inches or so, even at the smallest point here, where you could really strap quite a bit of stuff back here, whether that's extra tube or, you know, maybe even like a smaller water bottle. You can get creative with this space back here. So they left you some good space in order to, you know, strap some things back here, hide some things back here, you know, whatever. And that is, yeah, it's mostly it for the bottle cage bosses, attachment points and stuff. So the next thing, we'll just start here, is the suspension and the comfort. So we've got this SR Suntour NCX suspension seat post. I really like these. If you guys have seen any of my ELUX videos, you know that this is kind of one of my favorite ones. It's 120 bucks. It's a great price point. This is, you're buying aftermarket. Obviously it just comes here on the GT model. But this one's really cool. You can spend more, get a Cane Creek, Redshift, Connect, whatever. But I really like these. I think it's a really, really good value for the money. And then on top of that, we've got our Surface gel saddle. This thing is nice. It's comfortable. Big, wide, plush. Yeah, and this comes on all the GT models, and I think that's a pretty sweet saddle. Might not fit you perfectly, right? Saddles comes down to your sit bones, kind of how you're designed. But for a lot of people that have sat on this, gotten some feedback from them, they say that they like this pretty well. So easy thing to switch out if you don't like the saddle. If you got one that you already love, you know, whether it's a Cloud 9 or something else, easy to swap that out and put that on the suspension seat post, which will definitely elevate the ride feel. And in the front, we've got our Zoom front forks. We do have preload here, no lockout on this side, which for what you're going to be riding this on, not a huge deal, in my opinion. Just having a little preload there, you know, you can finagle with that, kind of tune it a little bit. Not a whole lot of tuning options here. If you're used to mountain biking or something like that, you know that you can get pretty in the weeds as far as how you set those up. This one's just preload, so it's pretty straightforward, but they are color matched. So a lot of bikes would just have black forks because that's just the easiest thing to get a hold of. It's the cheapest thing to get a hold of, but they're like, nah, let's make sure it's color matched, so that way the whole vibe of the bike stays the same. So I like that they do that here. The front fork works well. Again, not a whole lot of customization here as far as the ride feel goes, but you can dial in that preload a little bit if you want to get into that side of things. But stock as it comes, I think it handled pretty well. Now when I'm riding it, there's a couple things to note as far as sort of the ride feel and the fit here. The first one is going to be the pedal forward geometry that ELUX has on all their bikes. So if you look at where the pedals are compared to where the seat is, you can tell that is quite an angle going down there. And that means that you can be more efficient with your pedaling. Your knees don't have to come up as high. So if you're somebody that has, knee problems, hip problems, lower back problems, being able not to have, bring your knees up all the way to your chest or something like that, it is going to be a huge plus. And you can tell the difference. Most bikes would probably have the saddle just behind there. And this is back by a solid, center it, 1.5 feet or so. It is pretty far back there. Now, they're moving you back here. They're moving the pedals up a little bit. And it's going to be a more comfortable pedaling position. But on these bikes, we also have these giant swept back handlebars. So even though you're a little bit further back, the bars are coming a little bit further back. So that's going to make it nice and easy. And if we sit on it, you can tell this is a nice, easy, relaxed position. Whereas if these were straight bars, you'd have to be way over to get to kind of where those straight bars would be. So this is definitely the type of handlebars you'd want for this pedal forward geometry. A lot of people like this. It's very relaxed, very easy. And we've got these ergonomic grips, double locking points. As you guys know, I'm a big fan of locking points here. A lot of bikes still to this day do not have locking mechanisms on their grips, and that being the main way you control the bike doesn't really make sense to me, especially in Texas. A little overcast here, a little post hurricane barrel action for you guys. But in Texas, when it is hot, those rubber grips tend to get a little bit more elasticy, and so they just spin. And so it's a very unsafe situation, but not on this bike. We got those locking mechanisms here. And we've got these ergonomic grips. And now what's interesting about the ergonomic grips on this swept back beach cruiser style is you put your hand down here, and this is going to take up a good chunk of your palm, but I still feel like I've got a really solid grip here. And for the most part, my wrist is pretty straight. There's some cruisers where you kind of would grip it like this, and after a while you're gonna start to get pinched here in that wrist area. But with this one, you can grab it pretty much straight up and down, which is awesome. Gonna really relieve a lot of wrist fatigue. And then you can you have access to your brakes right here, throttle right here, and then we've got our keypad. On this side, we've got our shifter. Now this is a 9-speed Shimano Altus trigger shifter, and if you guys have seen some of the videos, you'll know that on a couple of the models we've tested, they did come with Sunrace shifters up here in the front. As I was saying before, my camera overheated, which is crazy because it's overcast, but hey, you can still get sunburn in overcast. That's what my mom was always telling me. So anyway, on this Shimano's really nice, the Altus trigger shifters here. And then we go back here, and we've got this Shimano Altus derailleur. Now this is the upgraded one. It just looks a lot cleaner. It's kind of got this gunmetal gray action to it. And so far, shifting through all the gears, we don't get any ghost pedaling. The gearing ratio right here works out really well. And yeah, some really good gearing. Right out of the box, didn't have to mess around with the shifter. So if you're somebody who wants to get this ordered, they're very easy to put together. It's like 1 or 2 things you got to do. It's like put on the pedals, put on the strap. I think it's attached to the handlebars, which is pretty simple. All right, guys, we have got the Malibu GT step through, which we've been talking about mostly in the review, and we've got the Malibu GT step over. So I want to talk about some of the differences there, and really the major difference is going to be our standover height. So if we go ahead and measure our standover height on the step over, kind of where you'd be stepping over is about anywhere between 30 to 31 inches, I would say, for kind of where you're going to be stepping over here. So 31 inches. If we go on this side, We are at 17 for a step over. Now, usually the smallest part of the bar is not going to be your actual step over height, but because we have this pedal forward design here, we do have a lot of space in between the seats, so this is actually probably the spot where you'd be putting your foot over, so you get to take advantage of the full sweep down here of that top tube. So definitely a huge advantage to getting the step through if you're looking for that. Now, let's see, saddle. We'll go saddle to floor, 34 inches. We can get you up here. Look at this, guys. 34 inches, I would say. Yeah, 34 inches from the top of the saddle to the ground. And then here, it's already as low as it'll go. It looks like it's at about 34 and a half. That saddle looks like it's maybe angled a little bit, but I would say about 34 and a half. Very comparable as far as seat height to the ground goes. Other than that, same specs, a little bit of a different vibe. This one's got kind of more of a beach cruiser vibe with the big sort of bow top tube here. And this obviously is a step through, gonna make it a lot more accessible for people to get on and off. So really those are the only differences, kind of the aesthetics of step through versus step over, and then the actual height of that top tube there. So without further ado, let's get into the ride test. All right, guys, we're out here for the ride test on the Malibu GT step through. Go ahead and press that power button, turn it on. Gonna accept that 26-inch there. Now, like I mentioned in the review, the throttle is gonna work even though we're in pedal assist level 0, so I'll demonstrate that. We're just gonna go. And also, as a caveat to this section of the ride test, it is in power mode. So we're gonna go into eco mode, and I'll show you what the difference looks like a little bit later. But right now it is in power mode, so we are gonna get that top speed, top torque out of the motor. Just cruising. A little bit of a headwind here. Go ahead and do a braking test here in 3, 2, 1. Try not to skid the tires, but I definitely could have. Again, you get these 4-piston brakes here, so I was trying to do a nice. It's still probably about 15, 16 feet or so. Let's go ahead and go through the gears. I got a downshift. Again, all those like butter. So we'll start out in pedal assist level 0, and now we're just kind of pedaling it like just a heavy bike. And it's pretty comfortable. Again, having that pedal forward geometry with getting those pedals out a little bit further from you does make it. I mean, really, I'm straight up and down. No, I personally could probably raise the seat a little bit. I might raise the handlebars a little bit as well if I did that. But I'm just trying to get a good angle with the GoPro. So definitely something where I'd probably go up a little bit further, but even this, it's easy to pedal. And 2, 3. I mean, the shifting is like butter. Sometimes you'll shift into kind of clinks into, into the next gear, but it is honestly pretty darn fluid. Let's go ahead and go in pedal assist level 1. About 10 miles per hour. Literally can't hear the motor at all. We'll go to 2. Kicking in a little bit, gonna get us up to about 12 or so. Pedal assist level 3. Now, because we're in power mode, you can see the jump when we go into different pedal assist levels. Go to 4. Big jump into 4 there. Now again, that's something I like. I like having the torque. That 5 really picks up here. Now I'm in 9th gear, nice easy pedal cadence, and we're going 27.5 miles an hour, which is nice. If you guys have watched any e-bike reviews, you know that ghost pedaling is a thing some of these e-bikes experience. And it's just nice to know that you're not going to get that here. So even pedaling top speed, our top gear here, it is nice. Now we're going to brake when we get to the stop sign here, and we'll probably turn around. Let's get it out here. See what I'm saying? I could have skidded those tires out. Stops real nice. It's probably about 10, 12, 13 feet, something like that. Yeah, it's the Dorado brakes, having the 4 pistons on there, is super nice. Now, like I mentioned, we're in power mode. Let's go ahead and put it into, we're gonna hold down the set button, put it into normal mode, and put it into eco. Hold down set again to set it. And now we're in pedal assist level 5. I'll hit the throttle. And as you can tell, it's a much more tamed down version of the bike. So if you're somebody who just wants to cruise around and enjoy the scenery, putting it in eco mode it's very pleasant. It's a very pleasant ride experience. And again, having a nice cush seat post suspension, and that surface gel saddle. This thing is really, it's just plush. It's very comfortable to sit on. I'm gonna go ahead into this cul-de-sac pulley UE, and then we're gonna go through our levels of pedal assist, and I'll show you the difference. So when we were in power mode, as we were switching our level of pedal assist, it was pretty torquey and jumping up into those next speeds. But now that we're in eco mode, I'll show you how that is no longer the case. All right, so let's go down into pedal assist level 1. So I have to stop a little bit because 1 is below that. Nice easy takeoff, gets up to about 8 or so. 2, you can tell it started to pick up, but it wasn't like a jolt. There's not a whole lot of torque behind it. And get us up to about 12 miles an hour. 3, again, just super smooth. We're going to that next level of pedal assist. 4, it's still, I mean, it's still accelerating up to about that 20 mile an hour mark. Just creeps up there. And then pedal assist level 5, again, super smooth. It's still going to get us up to our top speed. It just does so in a way that is much more tame and toned down. Now this is pleasant. This is pleasant. You know, for somebody who likes to go fast, and I enjoy the torquey things in life, just kind of easy pedaling and enjoying the clouds. It's a nice experience. Again, we're still accelerating up to that top speed. But again, we're in eco mode, so it's just going to take us a while to get there. And then throttling it. That is nice. So guys, I think that is going to do it for our review on the Malibu GT from ELUX. If you guys have any questions for me, let me know down in the comments. If you want to check out ELUX's stuff, I'll have a link to them down below as well. Thanks for riding with me, and we'll catch ya on the next one.